Hi, this is Pierre Wikberg, and you're listening to the Not Snowboarding Podcast. The first movies I watched was the summer of 87 or 88, and it was Wheels of Fire with Santa Cruz that shot on 60mm film, and then Animal Chin from Powell. And I was mesmerized. I was in like a toy store, watched it on repeat, and then when the VHS was done, I would ask them to like rewind it, and I didn't even know what I was watching. I'm like, Jeff Kendall in Indianapolis, Indiana. Like, okay, who's Jeff Kendall? Like, I thought he was a vert skater, but he skated. And then the Nautis part came on, and I think I probably blacked out the first time I saw it.
Rightly so.
Hit you with the Nautis spin, and that was it.
Yeah, mind-blowing. And the older I get, and like being a skate tourist on Instagram and going to all these places, the fact that Nautis filmed that in like 2 days, like within a quarter mile from his house, is more amazing to me now at 39 years of age than it was when I was like 12.
So you know the rules of polite conversation, right? Never talk about religion or politics? Well, we throw that right out of the window for this episode of the podcast. Forewarning, some of this discussion may be hard to digest if you're someone with a rooted political, nationalistic, or religious belief. But from my point of view, none of our discussion was meant to pass judgment on anyone's belief system or to say that any one particular way of thinking is wrong or right. Before we get into it, I wanted to say thanks for the positive outpouring of feedback from the last episode. We'll attempt to do more long-form conversations like 2+ hours in the future, but just as a heads up, the next few episodes that are in the pipe are closer to an hour range and are recorded over Skype. Thanks so much to everyone that's made a habit of supporting the podcast via shopping through the Amazon banner ad on the Not Snowboarding Podcast website. It's located under the Support tab or at the bottom of each episode posting. Clicking through that ad before shopping on Amazon kicks us a little commission at no cost to you. Thanks to everyone that's supporting our sponsors, Custom Cult Snowboards and Shred Soles Snowboarding and Skateboarding Insoles. We've been seeing quite a bump in orders from the Southern Hemisphere as of late for Shred Soles, and quite a few people also asking if there's any way to reduce the shipping cost, which I can totally understand because in lots of places it costs as much as $50 to send a 1-pound box internationally. So if you're an international listener and shipping is your biggest barrier to entry right now, use discount code PRAY4SNOW. That's one word with the number 4 in the middle. PRAY, the number 4, SNOW, for $20 off all orders over $50. That should help offset the steep shipping charges, and it'll also work for domestic orders. The discount code is valid through the end of this month, August 2016. Let's get into the episode with the man behind the lens, Pierre Wikberg. Hello, Pierre.
Hello, guys. Hi.
Hello.
Hey,
How's it going, Pierre?
Good. I smell like fire because there's a fire in my building.
There's a fire in your building?
Yeah, I woke up this morning and I looked out the window and there's like a fire truck like entering a window pretty close to me and like 100 firemen downstairs, but seems to be a minor thing. So, but before I was going to call you guys, I was going to run down to the deli and get something so I wasn't hangry in the podcast. But then they wouldn't let me up. That's why I'm late.
So it's usually the opposite if there's a fire they want you to get out.
Yeah, I mean, eventually I made it down, and then I just got some yogurt and some fruit, and then I'm like, okay, let's go up and make the Skype call, and then they're like, oh, you can't go up. But here I am.
Was there no alarm?
No, it was on the news, but yeah, no alarm. I mean, they were yelling down here and stuff, but these windows are pretty soundproof, so yeah, I don't know.
Where are you in the country? Are you in New York?
I'm in New York City. I just moved there this week.
So what made you want to move to New York, of all places?
Because my wife got a job here as a transfer within her company, and she's like, you want to go? And I made the move from Sweden to the U.S. a couple times before, so I'm in no position to say no.
So it seems like you're like always in really beautiful places, and now you're in New York. What's that feel like? I mean, not saying New York is not beautiful in its own way, but it seems like you like being in pretty remote places.
I've been fortunate enough just to see a lot of the world through snowboarding, and then after snowboarding, I just kept busy revisiting friends and going to locations that makes me feel good. And I guess those places are, they're picturesque, I guess.
So what would you say if you were meeting somebody new right now and introducing yourself? What would you say it is that you do right now?
So what I usually say, and this is a complete lie, but I usually say I film snowboarding, which I haven't done in like 6 years.
But it's in your heart.
It's in me. It's who I am. And it's like I meet a lot of people who don't even know that that's a profession people could have. So it's like a decent icebreaker. And it kind of, I mean, even if I would have kept filming snowboarding, I would have been the same me. So, I mean, I film snowboarding, with my iPhone like all the time, but I just don't go on paid trips to document, triple corks.
Didn't you film Sage's?
Sage
Kotzenberg.
Yeah, I filmed Sage Kotzenberg's road to the Olympics, which turned out to be a pretty cool Cinderella story. But that's
was that the last project you worked on?
Yeah, that's the last project I worked on. So it was Olympics in 2014. But before that, I don't even know. And even then, like I was, my type of filmmaking caters more to that stuff than to like pretentious long lenses and red cameras.
Yeah, I find it interesting that you mentioned that you filmed using your iPhone recently. How do you feel about the state of snowboarding right now, where it seems like on one level you have a couple of movies each year that are kind of blockbusters, and on the other you have internet clips, right, which is most of my consumption anyways, and they can be filmed on something as simple as an iPhone.
Well, I always think that, content is everything. And my prime as a filmmaker, my preferred camera was 16 millimeter film and the X1000. So like those two tools were just perfect for me to document what I saw in front of me. And then that's obviously transitioned into cell phone cameras that are good enough to share those moments. But the thing with the internet, it's like it's such a great and awesome tool, but it also killed my livelihood. It killed the DVD.
Right.
But I'm not bitter about it. I just think it's a great progression. I just wasn't able to transition into a sustainable, income from web, but I welcome it with open arms.
Do you think that's made the quality go down and what people can see? Because before it was such a big process, and there were probably only a few people that were really making snowboard videos, and now like the access to it is crazy. Like I can see so many snowboard videos, but at the same time I'm like, most of these aren't that good.
AJ makes videos.
I don't think the quality. I don't think the quality necessarily goes down. Like if I see a random edit, just look at Yaguns or however you pronounce those guys from the Northeast. Yeah. I mean, their camera work isn't any worse or better than mine was, but their content is everything. So, I mean, that's a web series that costs like $50 in, food and gas money to make, I'm guessing. And it's the most interesting thing I like to see on the internet. Brain Farm is great, but it's not relatable to me or anyone else. I think it's necessary for Brain Farm to be there. They send trends that trickle down to Burton movies and like other movies with somewhat of a budget. And there's so many different types of filmmaking. Like, people love their movie rigs and their gimbal, everything. But then, I don't know, if you have a good GoPro or an iPhone and you have Bobby Warris skating through New York City, like, yeah, that's better in my opinion.
That's funny. We were hanging out with Bobby last week in LA, and AJ's probably, are you living with him right now, AJ?
Well, he's on a skate trip, so he's not here.
Okay.
Technically, he's my roommate.
That's just a funny reference.
He just came up because I was walking through New York City like the other day, and I saw like a skate spot. I'm like, I'm pretty sure Bobby wore a skater here. And then he was just
skate tourism.
Yeah, he was just on my mind.
So you mentioned that transition, and from the outside, me looking at your career from a high level, I don't see that financial struggle. I see success. What was it more a little bit behind the scenes from your point of view as the DVD is going away? You know, what are you feeling? What are you thinking at that point in time?
I never stressed about anything. I think I've just had such a privileged life up until that point. So, I mean, whatever happens, happens. I know I'll always be addicted to documenting things, whatever they might be. And I clicked well with Ken Block, who started DC Shoes, and he sponsored a couple of movies for Robot Food in like 03 and 04. And then he's like, you know what? Like, how about you and Travis Parker just come live at the Mountain Lab and make a fun movie? Here's like a 6-figure income and like unlimited budget. I'm like, okay.
Hard to say no.
Well, I mean, yeah, you have Travis Parker in the Mountain Lab, which is like one of the funnest places in the world. And I was actually living in New Haven, Connecticut at the time with an ex-Swedish girlfriend. And I'm like, sure. Yeah, that sounds great. And like, for people who've met Ken, know that he's a pretty charismatic and to some intimidating person. But I've only known him as a really fun guy who like scored on a high school adventure that turned into a really successful business, but also as a snowboard nerd. Like, he is a fan of Travis Parker and Todd Richards and the guys that I hung out with at the time, and he was a fan of my work. So like we just clicked well, and he's like, oh yeah, he just saw my filmmaking style as something that was relatable to his consumer, and that's how we started making Mountain Lab videos.
That seems like I can see that. I mean, I think with After Bang Lang and After Lame, it had this relatability to it, is a good way to put it. You know, there was always like pretty crazy stuff in it, but then there'd be like a lot of fun things that maybe someone could go out and do. Was that like important to you to put in?
It was super important. I always filmed that stuff when I worked for Absinthe. Before that, I worked like heavily with them for 2 videos called Tribal and Transcendence. And then before that, I filmed for MacDog, and then before I filmed for Standard and a couple of shoots and stuff too. And I always filmed that stuff. I'm like, oh, here's Brett Carpentier, like, I can't pronounce the name, sorry. Like, doing like a butter for like something cool before we go hit a kicker in Chamonix. But like, Standard Films never used that. And then I did the same thing with Ville and Joni and like all the forum kids for the MacDog videos, but none of that ever made the video. So I always filmed that, but until I could afford Final Cut Pro and a laptop in 2001, I could never show that to the world.
The other thing that I've noticed are you still with us? I've kind of heard some fade out here.
Yeah, I'm still here.
AJ, you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. I think maybe the fire.
No worries.
With the internet connection, if that works somehow.
The other thing that I found interesting about your work, and it shows up in the Mountain Lab videos and really all the videos across the way, is that it's not just the snowboarding. You do an amazing job of capturing the laughter, the joking, just the attitude of snowboarding. And some of that is who you're working with, but you capture it and integrate it into the videos as well. And it's not just boom, 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 content, heavy hitters, but it's also, you feel after you watch a Mountain Lab video like those people.
I feel like I was probably filming skateboarding and snowboarding the same way before it became a profession. But I was just lucky enough to, like, when I clicked with Travis Parker, like the first year we filmed for Afterbang, I'm like, I get this guy. But I mean, we've never met until like maybe the year before. But then him and UC, who I had met before, like they just kind of like, back then, like when it was just snowboard filmmaking was easier. Like the new proto guys were coming up in Tahoe. and we had split from Absinthe and Standard Films, and it was just, I think, good timing, and the writers trusted me and Jess and everyone else involved to just point the camera at him, and it became relatable. But I think that would have been inevitable. Like, I mean, that would have come later because people were over. Like, I think the movie that came out then was Mac Dog's Shakedown or Pulse or something, and yeah, they're not very good movies in my opinion.
So we've kind of started to walk backwards through time here. Why don't you take us back to the very first skate video that you ever saw as a kid, if you can remember it, and then we'll kind of move forward from there.
Well, I go on tangents, but I'll try and keep it short. But the first movies I watched was the summer of 87 or 88, and it was Wheels of Fire with Santa Cruz that shot on 60 millimeter film, and then Animal Chin from Powell. And I was mesmerized. I was in like a toy store, watched it on repeat, and then when the VHS was done, I would ask them to like rewind it, and I didn't even know what I was watching. I'm like, Jeff Kendall in Indianapolis, Indiana, like, okay, who's Jeff Kendall? Like, I thought he was a vert skater, but he skated. And then the Nadas part came on, and I think I probably blacked out the first time I saw it.
Rightly so.
Hit you with the Nadas spin, and that was it.
Yeah, mind-blowing. And the older I get, and like being a skate tourist on Instagram and going to all these places, the fact that Nadas filmed that in like 2 days, like within a quarter mile from his house, is more amazing to me now at 39 years of age than it was when I was like 12.
What were the...
like, I guess you have like more of a comprehension of what that, that seems so mind-blowing, and like, how did he even come up with that? Like, how far did he have to search for something like that? And then you're like, oh, that was outside of his house.
Yeah, he didn't search. Nothing was like, it wasn't like a day one song mission where you find a spot, you go and you film for 45 million tries. Like,
you take the wheels off, put them back on.
Yeah. Well, I love day one song, but it's just,
he's
Nadas was just, I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever have that type of a person that elevates and sees skateboarding the way he saw it. And yeah.
Do you ever stumble across, like, being a skate tourist, you ever stumble across something and don't realize like that's what it, and you like stop in your tracks and people are like, what's wrong? It's like, no, you don't understand. This is what happened here.
Yeah, all the time.
All the time. I felt that way with Hollywood High. The first time I went there, I was like, holy shit, this is Hollywood High.
Yeah, and then you walk up the stairs and you're looking down the rail and you're like, holy shit. And then,
you can feel the energy in those spots. It's funny, you go and touch them, and you're touching the stairs and touching the rail, and to an outsider, they must think that you're crazy. If they see somebody looking at you like, what is this guy doing? Just caressing a handrail.
Yeah, no, but that's the cool part about, I think, just from, I don't really know where you guys were raised, but I'm guessing maybe far from the skate meccas and like the videos. So when you do go there, you're like, yeah, it's like, it's a very nostalgic thing, and we watch skate and snowboard videos like 50, 100 times. Like the indoctrination we've had through the early videos in our childhood, like, I think it's almost not even comprehensible to someone, except like maybe you're a crazy Dylan or Springsteen or like music fan, like it's so in our DNA.
How hard was it to get American skate videos? I know there's like a formatting issue between the U.S. and the rest of the world.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I bought Bandis whenever that came out for like $60 at the time. And that was probably, I don't even, 2 months income for me or something. I mean, they were $19 in the U.S., but they're like 60 once they reached me. But I just didn't care. I'm like, and then we would just copy as many as we could, like me and my friends who lived within like an hour radius. Eventually we figured out like, okay, you buy this one and then you buy this one. But then they figured out Macrovision or something where you couldn't copy them anymore. And that became kind of a headache.
So when do you move from watching skateboarding, participating in skateboarding, to picking up a camera?
I was lucky enough to have a dad who had a little TV, radio, stereo store, and he just filmed the graduations and Christmas plays and whatnot back in like the late 80s, when a camera was like, like a full on like backpack for the recorder and like a huge TV camera on your shoulder. And then eventually we were just skating, and I think he might have filmed us for a second, and we went in and rewatched it. I'm like, okay, yeah, we should definitely do this more. And then since we haven't purchased them for whatever, $3,000-$4,000, I could just borrow it. And then I actually filmed skateboarding probably before I saw a skate video.
Oh, wow. You made your own skate video.
Yeah, I've worn out so many pause buttons and pause functions on VHS players, just holding that pause function for like 3 minutes before it stops.
What was your first paid gig as far as filming goes?
I don't know. I probably filmed for some... I don't know. Probably Ingemar's backside airing Riksgränsen 20 years ago.
Talk about that a little bit, because that was really your first big break in snowboard filmmaking, right? That was like...
it was a pivotal moment in my life. I mean, everything from that day changed. Like, I mean, if you watch the movie Sliding Doors, that's what that was.
Yeah.
I have it.
Yeah. Ingemar he was at his peak. He had released Meltdown Project and the Substance video, and he was there filming, started Atlantis snowboards that were probably as hot as a brand could be at the point. And then he just went like 50% bigger than anyone else has ever done. And the MacDog filmer ran out of film, and I had it, and we're childhood friends, and I gave it to MacDog for like $100, and then MacDog started sending me on Euro trips because he wasn't really keen on flying to these big air contest things and stuff. He just wanted to be in Tahoe.
Wow, that's one of those things, though, where people look at that from the outside and say, oh, wow, immediate success, but really, you've been filming for how many years up until that point?
Oh, yeah, so many years. That was 96. I mean, I was making home videos since like 89. But
oh, wow.
So it's just, and I was just lucky that Ingemar, who happened to be, top 3 snowboarder at the time, 4 or 5, maybe with, Peter and Terry and whoever else. And he was just told the guy like, oh yeah, my friend filmed it. And then he looked at my tape and he's like, oh, you got the in-run too? Because no one else got the in-run. Because everyone was framed up perfectly for the lip to get the beauty shot. And then I obviously lost the lip, and it's like a horrible technical film job, but it still catches the vibe. I was pretty hyped when I saw Stomping Ground like land in my mailbox, and I put it in, and like my shot is like the first 45 seconds of the video before it even starts.
Were you in that position on purpose? Did you look and say, hey, everybody else is filming over here, I'm going to move here?
I think it was a combination of like where I wanted to be, because Ingemar just switched his board before that, and I can't find the original tape because I filmed him like switching his bindings from his 151 to his 157 or something, because he's going to go bigger and faster. And so I think I just happened to be in that area because like that's where the speaker was, that's where some of my friends were, and I wasn't 100% focused on like getting the cover shot. That's why I was there.
Super interesting. So let's fast forward back up to the Mountain Lab. I'm curious, were you into rally before meeting Ken, or did that come as part of the relationship with Ken?
Not at all. Like he just had a Subaru that he would drive up and down the road from Park City to the Mountain Lab, and then he started like fading out at DC as like a president or whatever his title was at the time, and he started racing in the North American Rally Series, and he's like, hey, you want to go to Michigan and like film some rally? I'm like, sure. And then I did, and then that's kind of what I've done for the past like 9 years.
So you've
Rally
sat
car filmer.
You've sat next to Ken for a lot of these while you're filming. Have you done like an official co-driving role where you're reading off?
No. I mean, it's just, the thing with the rally, it's like, it's like with everything, you just don't know too much about it until you're like put in the situation of like, oh, how do I appreciate Formula One or rally car racing or NASCAR? Like, I'll talk smack about NASCAR any day, but like, I'll defend rally also because it's probably the most complicated motorsport there is.
It seems insane, like the amount, like you have to be so quick, and the car like catches air. Like it's not unusual for that to happen.
Yeah, and it's just I think you just have to be on the next level. Like, I mean, Jedi, reflex thing. Like nobody ever gets top 10 in rally unless you're going over 100%. And then obviously when you're going 100% at anything, off a diving board in your friend's pool or anything, like shit's going to happen. Like, the thing is like when going through 90 miles an hour sideways through trees, the consequences are different.
Have you been in a crash?
No, I have not. But I've been in the car, and Ken definitely likes to scare everyone. But the thing is, like, he can drive, like, if he's driven the route through a forest or whatever, he can drive at 90, 80% and just scare the shit out of anyone.
Yeah, that's not even his 100%. Wow.
No. He can just, I mean, it's not relatable to us. I mean, Todd Richards, who's like a really big car guy and fancies himself as like probably a decent driver on a good track. But I mean, he can't sit next to Ken driving, because if you're kind of good at something, like Ricky Carmichael's been in the car, Travis Pastrana's been in Ken's car, like the people who are good, like they freak out the most because it's relatable to them and it's just pushing a little bit too hard.
They have
For
no
me,
control.
It's just like I'm on a roller coaster and I have no idea what the fuck's going on.
In the Gymkhana car, I've heard that there are a huge number of buttons and switches that control power to each wheel and that sort of thing. And that, some of the things where you're doing this turn on a dime for 360, 720 sort of thing is maybe not all driving skill, but a little bit more the way cars set up. Do you have any insight into that at all?
Probably. Yeah. I mean, I've filmed videos where he transfers a car from rally, in like rally, like a forest rally, to like rallycross, which is, like on a Formula One track with a little bit of dirt, and then into a Gymkhana mode, which is like, I think, lower and more control and trick orientated. So the car definitely have different specs. I just don't know what they are and what the handbrake does and how the differentials work. Like, I can't even find a spark plug on a car. Like,
has it influenced your car decisions at all? Are you in an all-wheel drive rally car right now?
No, I don't like any type of. I don't like muscle cars. I don't like performance cars. I don't like any of those cars. And that's kind of what my friends in the car industry give me jobs to document and film. But I guess I'm just good at telling stories or filming moving objects, but I just don't have the nerd appreciation for it. But I keep doing it because I like my friends and they get a lot of views. And I mean, I was just on a road trip where like every Instagram video I did daily got like 500,000 views.
Was that the Hoonigan road? Yeah. That's insane.
And it's just to go on a road trip and like film random shit. They're doing a bigger piece, but I was just like, you know what? Like Hoonigan has 1 million followers on Instagram and more than that on Facebook. If I make like a little fun video, because I mean, their target audiences are so nerdy for what they do. I'm just gonna, put all my effort into pleasing their audience because I think it's stupid not to. And then you see the views, you're like, oh, how did that video do yesterday? Oh, 400,000 on Facebook and 80,000 on Instagram or whatever it was. And I'm like, well, that was worth it. Like it just, and I've never got that connection through snowboarding or skateboarding or something that I really cared about.
It's crazy to see that like instant, those numbers, and like everyone can see those numbers. Yeah, like, constantly. Like I'm always thinking about like, oh, this video got this many views, and everyone is privy to that. Whereas I don't know if that was the case with like people didn't really release DVD sales with snowboarding videos.
No, it was weird. Like back then, like we would ask people like, oh, how many do you sell and yada yada yada. But I was just curious. Like I think asking standard films or Neo Proto or whoever I might have asked Kingpin at back in the day, like, what do you sell? Because we're dealing with the same distributors in every continent. And like, I think if the filmmakers had transparency, we might be able to, make a little bit more money combined or something. But like those numbers that was just like asking like, how small is your dick, or like how much money do you make? Like it was such an intimate question to me that meant nothing.
That's changing.
Oh, you sell 20,000.
That's changing socially. I feel like the younger generation, I forget what you call the younger generation right now, but it's not uncommon.
Like
yeah.
Zers.
Well,
I think that's what older people.
Millennials. There we go. But I don't think it's as taboo for them to talk about how much money they make. I think that they've grown up in a transparent society where they're posting their thoughts on the internet. And I think it's the way that we're evolving is to more transparency in general across everything.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, like, I mean, I don't even think asking someone like, oh, how many DVDs are you selling in Japan necessarily translates to like, oh, how much money do you have and what motorcycle are you going to buy? Like, I don't care.
Right.
Like, I mean, who knows what the overhead is from sponsors before that? Like, and robot food packaging always costs 5 times as much as anyone else's.
I'm looking at a copy of Lame right now in a metal case.
The rubber band?
Yeah, the rubber band was like, we bought rubber bands for like, $18,000 or something.
Oh my God.
It's expensive rubber bands.
Well, that's the thing. David Benedek was really into designing and doing that type of stuff. And that actually is what he does for a living now. So I didn't see why we would nickel and dime him for something where he was pursuing his hobby and his career,
I still like it, it stands out. I don't see DVDs packaged like that. Well, I don't see DVDs packaged anymore, but like, that was such a unique thing and it was really cool. I assume it was more environmentally friendly, but maybe not.
Well, I know. It was just an aesthetic that I always liked to hold something tangible, and I mean, in the skate videos, they were all, just like a paper cover on a VHS. But I remember even when Alien Workshop's memory screen came out and the cassette was yellow. I'm like, this is cool. Like, I like a yellow cassette. And then when Benedict came up with the idea of doing the Robot Food DVDs a little bit different and, trying shit out, I was all for it, even though if we lost $1 or $2 per packaging.
I was in retail for many years at a snowboard shop, and videos that were visibly different in their packaging stand out because you'll have 40, 50 videos, all the exact same size DVD case, and then you'll have Lame, totally different, and it's going to not only stand out, but it's going to be a focal point of that display. You're not going to just see the edge like the other videos. You're going to see the whole package presented. So as a marketing decision, it was very wise from my point of view, and they sold better. People, immediately gravitate to the one that's different. Yeah.
Well, I will take zero credit for that. It's all David, but it made sense to me. Had I been just a filmmaker like Mike Hatchett or, Whitey or someone, like, I would just go with the cookie cutter DVD box and save a nickel or a quarter per packaging because that made more sense.
I feel like it always have been, so Lame was in like a metal container, right? And like, I think I remember someone using that for something else. Like, I'm like, oh, you have Lame? And he opened it up and it was like, no, I stored whatever in here.
Chronic, maybe?
Probably. I think that's what it was. It was probably drugs. And then, after Lame had the cardboard with the rubber band around it to keep it. And then DC Mountain Lab had like a whole book. So had the DVD and all the photos and stuff. So I always felt like, at least with that one, I remember buying that and being so like, oh, I'm getting so much more out of this. Like, this is incredible.
Well, the thing is, like, for us, we were up against Community Project, or maybe That's All, or what was the first Brain Farm movie?
I think, Community Project was maybe pre-Brain Farm. I don't know,
it was pre-Brain Farm.
Yeah,
but it was about that time, and Ken was just like super involved with everything, and he's just like, well, I have 2 staff photographers and you're making a movie, let's make a book out of it. And then whenever the kid, buys it, at least they'll have something to read. Because they had done the DC deluxe edition for skating when Danny hit the mega ramp and stuff. And I think that also kind of came with like some sort of book. And it just seemed he was always super into like holding something tangible and like being proud of the product. And, and I always backed it. At that point, I wasn't getting royalties. So I didn't care like if the freaking book, a DVD cost $5 to make,
So you lived at the Mountain Lab for a while with a lot of different characters. There had to be, and we've had Rene on the podcast before, and he shed a little bit of light on some of the shenanigans that would go down there back in the day from his point of view. Do you have any particular stories or any standout things from your time there?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, it was just cool that like that house like was Ken's and Lucy's. Like they lived there. And they just had upstairs, and we could play video games until 3 a.m. or do whatever we wanted. And like there were 0 complaints. And that house was actually meant as a guest house, and they're going to build like a bigger mansion at the top of the rope tow. But that never happened because of an angry neighbor or something. And the fact that they just kind of welcomed us into their home, even though it was a marketing home, it definitely had that unique feeling of like not being just like a house that was for marketing reasons, and it felt real, like it was a real deal. And the Nick who managed the place, he like ran the rope tow, and he did like other DC related things in that area of the country. But I mean, he became like, he's a lifelong friend now. And he's like one of the hardest working people, and made the Mountain Lab really fun for everyone who came and visit. Like, I mean, Devin Walsh came there when it was melting because he needed to get shots for the video. That was actually a really difficult phone call to make, to call one of your idols that I didn't know really well back then and be like, hi, the Mountain Lab's melting. I need some shots of you. He's like, I'm in Stewart, BC, and there's powder coming. And I'm like, yeah, you
come ride this rope tow.
Yeah, come ride this rope tow and like do like a little bit of jibs and like some switch methods. Yeah, I don't really ride park anymore. And I'm like, oh fuck. But he's like, I'm like, I can't make you show up, but we're gonna have dirt here in like 7 days or 6 days. So if you just came for 2, like your name's in the video or whatever. And from what I remember, they got skunked up there, and he got shots, and he flew back and everything. Everybody was happy. But like riding through the house is like probably one of the highlights. Ken was like, how about you just put some snow through I mean, it'd be cool to just ride off the deck. Like, okay. And then that happened. And I don't know, and Renee was like a really good part of Comic Relief. Todd Richards and Travis spent a lot of time there. Eddie, I mean, first time I met Simon Chamberlain, we rode there by ourselves for like, 3 days or something. And it was such a pleasure, to ride with him, because I had seen his jib work at the time that was probably top notch. And it was really humble and really nice. And it was just cool to meet people that I wouldn't necessarily go meet otherwise. And I think Simon actually gets complimented on his Mountain Lab video part quite a lot still. And back then, I remember him saying like, yeah, my stepchild parts are promo copy or whatever video he was in. It's like, I always get compliments on my Mountain Lab video part that I did in like 2.5 days, more than like a season-long video. And that meant something to me,
For sure.
Created this like really cool atmosphere, like with seeing Simone, and like I still remember Travis Parker like talking about 360 nose slappies and nose tail scooters. And it was just like really funny, but then it was like, whoa, this kid is pretty amazing. Like trying to work those tricks out in my head. It was like, what hold on, it was pretty mind blowing. But it definitely was. It was super fun. It was that thing again. It was attainable and relatable, and with those videos, you really had an eclectic mix of riders.
And like I was going to get to about the community project and like later on the brain farm videos, because Kurt Morgan and Travis Rice came there and filmed some stuff with like some gyro stabilized mega camera that didn't end up used, I think. But it was like I couldn't compete with a video that's filmed in like 4 continents over 250 days. Like I'm filming a house at 20 acres, and you just have to bring out something else. And I mean, the people who showed up there and like with a mix of my way of filmmaking, I think made it like as good as it could have been.
Coming from Sweden into the United States and then specifically into Utah, what were some of the differences in the people? And I think of Utah as being a relatively conservative area of the United States. Were there noticeable differences in society that you were picking up on while you were there?
I didn't hang out or meet Mormons necessarily. I mean, sure, there are snowboarders that are Mormon and people I met, but it just didn't really matter. Like Jake Welch, for example, who's like a young kid back then who came up to the Mount 11 road, had one of my favorite styles and still do to this day, and one of the nicest people I've ever met, is a Mormon. And I'm like a raging atheist, but we still clicked, And but Jake doesn't really embody the white privileged Mormons in Utah that I kind of despise.
When did you decide to become an atheist?
I don't know. I think everyone's born an atheist, so I just stayed with that.
And does that ever come up when you talk to people in America or when you talk to people in general, and are people more alarmed in America than maybe Europe?
Yeah, it's not even a topic of conversation in Sweden because 90% are atheists. Like it's not even like the sky is blue, like, sun goes down at night. It's like so normal. Here, obviously, it's not. And, that's that whole thing, like never talk politics or religion. And that's all I do. So it gets me in trouble all the time.
Have you ever lost followers? Does that happen on like social media? Like when you post something about like religion or?
Oh yeah, all the time. I got a death threat on Instagram the other day. If you watch the video from 4th of July, there's a dude there who wanted to see me hanged.
Whoa.
What?
Because I put Donald Trump in there, and, just quoting him like, yeah, please don't vote for this guy. The whole world nobody wants this guy.
Yeah, and but are you excited for his face on Half Dome? Like, that would be cool.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, when I went to Yellowstone, to Yosemite, I'm like, yeah, this could be like the new, like, Mount Rushmore. Like, there's a Trump face there. There'll be a Trump casino down by the Yosemite Falls, and there'll be Donald Trump's face on Half Dome. Like, it's completely doable.
Alex Honnold will be the first person to free solo Trump.
Yeah. I think it's important, even though, I mean, people are like, well, fuck, why do you come here? I'm like, why do you even here? I'm like, there's hundreds, maybe 200 good Americans and all my friends. Like, you have an amazing country. Your nature is one of a kind. The language barrier is nothing. My hobbies in board sports all originate from here. Like, I just don't get, a large portion of the population here. And I think it's dangerous what's going on in Europe and in the US with politicians who are being racist bigots. Like, it's a huge problem.
Well, that comment, why do you even come here, is indicative of the people that I feel that message resonates with. It's it's a cookie cutter response to anything that is perceived to be anti-nationalism, anti-American, or even questioning it. Oh, you don't like it? Leave it. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that just for questioning whether we should have our children recite a Pledge of Allegiance every day. Let's just look at this. Let's have a conversation around it. You know, you don't like it? Leave it.
The Pledge of Allegiance is like, I mean, to hold your hand on a storybook about Jesus, to like, do you promise to tell the truth to help you God or whatever? That's just ignorant. Like, you can't just do that to people. The Pledge of Allegiance didn't even have God until the 50s. And now that's like the norm. Like, just get God out of the equation, and then we'll have less people hating each other.
When I was a kid, I grew up in a pretty conservative part of America. And the Pledge of Allegiance started bothering me like when I was fairly young, and I didn't really know why. It just felt really weird to me to say, like, chant this thing every morning.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, like, you didn't have to stand up for it. Like, they couldn't make you. So I was like,
but it's probably frowned upon if you sat down, wasn't it?
Well, yeah. Well, I was, I'm not going to stand up for this. And I had a teacher come up to me, like, afterwards, and she's like, I can't believe you won't stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance. Like, the men and women that have died for this country, like, started going off on me. Mm-hmm. And one day it was like the anniversary of September 11th, and she was like, on today of all days, you won't stand. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what? You know, she was just really harassing me over it. And I was like, why can't we have a conversation? Like, you know, I mean, she really shouldn't say anything, but
that's the sad part when grown-ups, especially teachers who I hold in higher regard, just like law enforcement or something, do that type of stuff to a child, like, or a kid. Like, it just, I'm all for people believing in spaghetti monsters and Jesus and Odins and whatever, but just like, don't go around indoctrinating it into innocent kids, you know?
So we've broken the two rules here. We've talked politics and religion, and I love it. I would love to get back to politics, because if not, I guess kind of two thoughts around this presidential election. From your point of view as someone who hails from outside of the United States, I heard you say something to the effect of, the world doesn't want Trump. Is that just in all of your travels, just glaringly obvious, or do you think that there's some level of confirmation bias?
I mean, I'm generalizing, but yeah. I mean, I think if there's 7 billion people on the planet, there's probably less than 100 million who wants Trump for president, and the consequences of those 100 people possibly voting for him. Or I guess in an election, I guess the president gets around 60 million voters in this country. But it's like, the consequences of that are going to be a lot more than "Make America Great" bumper stickers. Like, it's like, I can't even put it into words.
So if not Trump, then who? And is there a difference between the other candidate, Hillary, that he's running against, really?
Well, like, after that death threat on Instagram the other day, you know, like, people take their time and respond every now and then. And I get what they're saying about Hillary. And I said something like, it seemed ignorant, I said, just vote for the lesser evil. Because I feel like the two-party system here is like pretty much the only way to go. But if you want to vote for Ralph Nader, or, you know, if Bernie runs as an independent, or Donald Duck, like, as long as you go and vote and your vote's registered, I think you're kind of part of this version they call democracy. But the two-party system is basically your choices.
It really bummed me out when Bernie, you know, didn't look like he was going to get the nomination, because I felt like this was our chance, you know, to.
Yeah, but you also got to understand that 50, 60 million other people hate Bernie Sanders. Like, or, you know, it's just so, the United States are so polarized, and it's kind of like, I'm not saying Bernie Sanders would have been the best thing for America, but it seemed the common sense thing to do. But he's also a radical person like Trump, which creates like,
just the other side
a divide, you know.
He's got a sick indie, though.
Yeah. I'm so hyped on that sweater I got from Commonwealth.
Commonwealth.
Yeah.
Have you ever skated there?
A long time ago when we
Okay.
did all the robot food videos in Portland.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, but it's one of my favorite pictures from the get-go, a Spike Jones photo of Marc Gonzalez in Mexico. And then to see Bernie in like that thing, I was like, wow, it really resonated with me.
All of that type of imagery in my Facebook feed and social media that I consumed from over a year ago made me think that he had more momentum than any of the other candidates. AJ and I have talked about this before. I never saw a pro-Trump post in my newsfeed ever until one girl, her name will remain unmentioned. Mm-hmm. And then I never saw a pro-Hillary thing, but it was like everybody was psyched on Bernie. And that's Bernie, what I saw.
He gathered a lot of people to like events and like conventions, and he had momentum and social media, and like people under 35 definitely voted for him. And it's just, but the thing is, the voting system and how the superdelegates work and how the Democrats choose their nominee, it's, I don't know. It's just not democracy to me.
Well, it's hard.
Do you think those other people that are maybe Trump or Hillary supporters aren't as savvy or as vocal in social media and pop culture? So like things, I saw Bernie's stuff all the time, like funny memes or whatever. And with Trump, it was always like really dark things that people were creating about him.
Mall grabbing.
Yeah. Or scooter riding.
Yeah, right. With a Hitler mustache.
Well, I think it's just, I firmly believe that every vote counts, but the thing is like the young people just post more Bernie stuff than maybe, my aunt or my parent or whatever that might be voting for Hillary. Like they weren't making as much noise and fuss about it. But then, maybe Bernie had all the momentum, but it's a strange time we live in with all the populism that goes around, and that's why Bernie and Trump are even there. Mm-hmm. Like if we wouldn't have populism in social media, it would have just been, Yo Schmo for Republicans and whoever on the Democratic side. I mean, Obama was a product of populism and social media and stuff, to a certain extent as well.
Bernie
makes the political climate kind of dumb because the UK just had a referendum about leaving the EU. Like having a referendum about such an important thing is a really strange thing to do from a prime minister, and that happened. Like they're exiting the EU. Like the consequences of that are people had no idea what they were voting for, but people like politicians in power just kind of caved towards, popular demands or whatever you want to call it.
Well, I think David Cameron kind of screwed himself on that. It seemed like because he got cocky. He was like, "Oh, if you elect me, then we'll have this referendum because And then he promised something that he thought he could easily win, and it kind of was like, "Oh shit!" Like all these people are like, "Let's get out of this. Let's get out of the EU." Yeah. And maybe he didn't really took for granted his position, and then he kind of, I don't know what's going to happen because of that, and it's the same thing. Like all the young people wanted to stay in the European Union, and it was like mostly older people that voted to leave, and then the surrounding country or the other countries in the UK wanted to stay,
mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's just like, I love talking about politics specifically on a greater scale. The thing is like, I care about Swedish politics too, but it doesn't have zero appeal to anyone outside of like, the size of a state of New Hampshire. Like, I'm not going to go into like, who's going to be the mayor, like in some random town. Sweden's so small, and whatever we do might be horrible. We have racists and all kinds of people in government now, and we have immigration issues and yada, 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 but it's like such a small, easy, manageable country. Yeah, the size of California with the population of Manhattan, and it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. You could lead by example if you're a small Scandinavian country, to show others what might be doable, but it's the big politics, especially what happens in, I don't know, North Korea and the US are probably very important things. Those are really close to World War III type of consequences.
What's the scariest part of socialism in Sweden? Is it the paternity leave, or is it something else? Bunch of men.
Actually,
what's the deal with all the men in like the souped up baby carriages?
Yeah, what's a latte papa?
Yeah, lots of papas. Yeah, it's just because when you have a kid, you get 480 days paid leave to be with your child.
Who pays for this? The government?
Yeah.
What?
So, because
Terrifying.
there's an incentive for us to have kids because we have a problem with growth, basically. I think Austria has for every kid you're born, you get 20 grand in the account just to be like, hey, here you go, you made a baby.
I'm trying to make some babies in Austria. What's up, Austrian girls?
And in Sweden, you get $150, $200 a month for 18 years per child. And we just don't believe that a mom should go to work 6 weeks after she had a child. It doesn't make sense for our definition of what a good life is.
And therein lies the challenge and the argument for the United States. That's a small population. Can that scale across all the people that we have here? Is that sustainable?
Yesterday I was sitting in Brooklyn, and I was just making an observation that about 15, 20 strollers were sitting at the Williamsburg waterside with probably as many kids, maybe a couple of twin buggies, and African-American nannies were watching these 20, 30 white kids because their parents are at work.
Yep.
And they're small kids, everything from not walking, 10 months to 4 years old. And it was obvious that these nannies weren't their parents or grandparents, probably because they were, in their 50s or 60s. And I'm just thinking busy life in Manhattan or anywhere in the US, these parents don't see their kids. I'm not saying paternity leave should last 3-4 years, but it's just I think it's not even a privilege. I think it's a right as a parent to see your kid take their first steps and be there for the first year or so of their lives.
Makes it really disconnected when you don't grow up with your parents around. They're always working, or and then how can you create some relationship, a positive relationship?
Well, I think the American dream back in after the war, it was just stay at home mom, dad worked, had a station wagon, they had vacation, but that's not happening anymore, not to my knowledge. And I also don't really endorse the thought of having the woman, by definition, stay at home with the kids. That seems like such a Stone Age concept. I can't even comprehend. There needs to be way more women out there for all kinds of reasons in all kinds of industries. And it's just strange to me. I mean, there's definitely downsides to socialism. Don't get me wrong. I'm actually a right-wing Swede. I've always voted right-wing everything my whole life in Sweden. But that is still left of Obama and Hillary,
Oh, wow.
But that's just how left our society is.
What does a right-wing Swede look like? What are issues without,
Well, the right-wing Swede wants to minimize government, wants to improvise or incentivize individualism and stuff that Americans take for granted. You work harder, you gain more. In Sweden, it's not necessarily like that. You work harder, people frown upon, or you are trying to be better, we're going to tax you higher. So I'm not for that, but I feel that vast majority, probably 80% of the population, are just middle ground, and they should have, if a kid breaks their leg on a BMX bike, or I've had multiple surgeries for tumors, that doesn't cost me anything, and I get the same treatment as our prime minister. We don't discriminate when it comes to cancer or stuff like that. And I think or education. I lived in New Haven, Connecticut for 2 years, right next to Yale, and I saw the privileged people, and I saw where they were going. And then I went to West Haven, the suburb, and I'm like, the people buying 2-liter Dr. Peppers here on food stamps, that person's not going to be president.
No.
And to me, that's really sad to see, because here, yeah, it's the land of opportunity, but it's also the land of too many dreams that are not going to be fulfilled.
Do you see more of that that separation between rich and poor? Do you see higher levels of poverty or more extreme levels of poverty here when you've traveled around?
Yeah, but I mean, it's just like, I mean, you're in Vegas. My girlfriend, or now my wife, when we went through Vegas, her only time, she had never seen really homeless people, because we have very, very few of them.
Right.
And the people who are homeless are kind of homeless by choice. And I know people in the US say that too, but that's not true. But it's like in Vegas, you have, such poor people like living under like an overpass. And then you have people having, like $1,000 dinners, like a block to the left.
Yeah.
And that, like, that obviously Sweden doesn't have that. And I've seen it in Dubai too, kind of. And it's gross. Like, it's completely appalling if you start to think about it. And then same here in New York City. Like, I mean, there's people tweaking on the streets like everywhere, and then a Bugatti drives by. It's just like, it's not. It's not great, and I just don't think anyone in their right mind would actually, endorse homeless people, the homeless life, or the unprivileged. But here, the opportunity to make it big and like be a millionaire and whatever that is. That dream here is it's just too ingrained in the DNA here for people to, like, I can achieve that guy. I can be the 1%. Like, I can be that. And that's great, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah, it seems like people sometimes vote against their own interests because they hope that their situation will change. And they're like, well, I don't want the rules to hurt me later on,
Yeah. And that's just a different mindset. It's just, it's just different. But I mean, when I'm in Oregon, I feel like I'm in Sweden. Like, I'm in that state. Or if I'm in coastal California, I just don't feel like I'm, in a disconnected part of the United States. It's just different. I feel actually when I'm in Oregon at any given time, nature-wise or people-wise or whatever, I feel like, I'm home.
Again, it's another, if you break it down to the state level, it's another area with a relatively low population and plenty of room. Lots of acreage. So you don't have to have as many rules. There aren't as many issues. There aren't as many people.
Yeah. And it's I don't know, to many people, it's a really boring subject, but I'm like, I'd love to get more educated on why. Like, I have New Jersey right next to me now. I'm actually looking at it right now. They have a lot of issues, and they have a crazy, I don't know if that Christie guy is a governor or a senator, but he might be like Trump's running mate. And I'm like, what is up with Jersey? But I don't want my preconception of Jersey to come out. Like, I'd like to learn more about it. But
Jersey's actually really beautiful, and don't tell too many people, but there is amazing surf there. I'm not going to tell you where, but it's. Well,
I'm pretty sure
it's got to be on the coast. I
can call Shane Pospisil. He'll know.
Yeah, he sure
Dirty
will.
Popsicles.
He's actually there surfing right now.
he rips on a surfboard. I've seen when he in like the New York Times or something, like when there's a heavy wave in Jersey. Jersey's kind of got a cool senator named Cory Booker. And I mean, he's kind of like Nate and I, because he's a vegan like us. And I think that's kind of cool, but that's, I like his politics, what he pushes for. And I would love to see him run for president one day, even though he says he doesn't want to. But
that's the thing, like you were saying earlier, like, I mean, there's so many good senators and people in government and so many obviously good citizens of this country. It's just like when I go on a binge, people are like, well, you're not being appreciative of being here or the country. I'm like, yes, I am. But I mean, you have a lot of cleaning up to do. And the few people that I resonate with are a minority. And I just, and like you, I mean, just by you guys saying you were vegan, it's just, I mean, there's so many things that are become memes. Like, oh yeah, you'll know you talk to a vegan because they'll mention it within the first 30 seconds. But I like that. But I like that because, I mean, I've hung out with Eddie Wall for years, and he's been a vegetarian his whole life. And he's just like, yeah, watch this movie Earthlings, and then you'll go have like barbacoa at Chipotle. And then I'll start watching Earthlings, and I'm like, yeah, no, I still love my barbacoa at Chipotle. But I know that I'm kind of in the wrong, but I love to educate myself more about everything, like government, all kinds of stuff. And I've been in the US for the past like 3-4 elections, and I've seen like 400 votes in Florida get, like disqualified or whatever, and then boom, George W. Bush is president. Like all those little types of shit that happens here that have crazy consequences just bums me out so bad to the point that where I need to rant about him, I guess.
Imagine being from here and the amount of, sometimes I have like election fatigue at this point, and I'm almost apathetic.
And you're young.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm pretty young. But I got that. I mean, people have been running for like 2 years now, and I'm like, I almost wake up some days like I don't care anymore. I just don't care.
I've been there too, and I can't even vote. Like, I mean,
yeah.
But it's just like, what are you going to do? It's just like this country is becoming, or is, a plutocracy where the rich rule, and like the common man does have a vote, but it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I mean, one would like to think so, but then, yeah, when you see election fraud and even things like the superdelegates in the Democratic Party, like, they came about because they had some really shitty candidates come through in the 80s. They're like, okay, we'll help them make decisions and pick the right people we want, but that kind of takes...
But from what I understand, Obama had a lot of help by the superdelegates in his first election. I can't remember which one. But at that point, it wasn't talked about. But it's always been there. It's not rocket science, but it's just, you have to be pretty into politics to know those types of things. And it's a big country, obviously. And it's a great country, but it's really difficult to run anything big. A corporation at that, like, just look at all the big corporations that go under, like, I mean, Polaroid or Kodak or whatever, like, film's not around anymore. How do you, like, a big company isn't nimble enough to change fast and for their own good, and then, shit happens. And that's what happened to the car industry and likely a lot of more industries in this country, because it's just so big. Slow process.
I'm glad we're talking about this, because sometimes snowboarders are like, well, keep politics out of snowboarding. But I'm like, there's so many things that affect us, even just as a human being. But, I mean, as a snowboarder, you should really probably care about climate change, and there's big policies that government can implement that would affect that. And there's other issues, but these are things that we should be at least aware of, whether it depends how active you want to be.
But it's just, I mean, I get into climate change discussions on Facebook with friends, mostly Christian friends, like a lot.
Yeah.
And I'll go for, like a good 30, 40 comments, and then, it'll just like fade away. But it's really difficult to meet someone or respect someone when they don't think that the climate change is due to how humans are living on this planet. Like, it's just like talking to someone like the earth is flat. And then you get into the fact that 40% of Americans don't believe in evolution. And I'm like, well, I don't believe in 40% of Americans then. Like, it just, there's so many things that are just, it's really, really, really difficult to see eye to eye or have a constructive conversation.
That's an insanely high number of people that don't believe in evolution. I mean, evolution, you can watch things evolve. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Well, they bring it down to certain types of different evolution, like how, one parrot talks different than another parrot on the other side of the Amazon, but then, like, they never budge on the whole monkey turned Homo sapien thing. Like, they'll never budge on that.
Wait, why do we still got monkeys?
Yeah, exactly. I can't, like, you're so dumb, I can't even, like, go there. Like, I can't even meet that
That's one of my points, taking it back to religion, that I think about all the time. Is you have, like, Mormonism's a pretty new religion. If that is the right one, well, what happened to all of humanity before that? What Christianity? What happened to humans before that? If this is the right religion,
and you look back a few more years, there's been I think over 100 versions of a virgin-born person under a star with wise men and all kinds of different Jesuses. But it's just the one that's here right now since 2016 years ago. That's the right one. And it's mind-blowing to me to be that ignorant where you can't see the pattern that this has happened 100 times in humanity, and everyone else is wrong and you're right.
We got a lot of lying-ass bitches saying they had virgin births. No, it was a virgin birth. I didn't have sex.
Yeah, but I mean, Mary had an affair, and it's having the consequences are crazy for that.
So
but she just had to lie.
Yeah.
We kind of have to wind down here and transition into a couple of different topics.
If you still have if you have any listeners, probably be a lot of people have just.
We'll get the death threats.
I don't know what our podcast listeners are. I don't know their politics. It hasn't really come up too much, but
you can see how many people start listening, and then percentage-wise, how many stop listening. So how many turn it off.
It's interesting. Comment. Personally, I don't engage online about politics or religion, and in a lot of ways, I'm like you. I wouldn't say that I'm an atheist, and I did for many years. I've changed that point of view recently to just say that I'm agnostic. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
If there is some greater, higher power, some God, and that's provable, cool. I'm down with that. But right now, it doesn't seem like that to me. But I usually don't engage, and I think that's translated over to the podcast to some extent, with this being the exception. So it'll be interesting. Hopefully, we won't receive any death threats. I think that's just part of the issue of everyone having a little bit of a voice right now and being able to post up a comment on social media. It's probably not that serious, but bring
on the death threats. I'm ready for the war.
Looked at your Tumblr blog, which is fucking amazing and beautiful, and you've been to some amazing pictures or places and captured them just beautifully. And a couple of things that I picked up on that I relate to personally. One, that you like to sit at the window seat on a flight.
Yeah, very important.
Could you elaborate on why?
I mean, when I heard the Louis C.K. thing, you'll have to Google it, how everything is amazing and everything sucks or whatever. Just being in a metal tube at, 30,000 feet looking down is amazing to me. It's just it's almost like I'm tricking evolution, or whatever. This is not supposed to happen. I'm not supposed to be up here. And I can obviously relate to the first pioneers who wanted to fly and see stuff from the air. And I've always been fascinated by maps and globes and everything. To see a grid, I follow a couple of Instagram accounts they just do aerial photos. And I just love seeing stuff from above. And I also sleep on planes 80% of the time. So leaning against the window helps.
I just flew across the country to see AJ last week. And I was with my wife, so we split it, and she got the window seat. It's my preference to always have the window as well and to keep it open and to look out, especially going over the mountains. It's just amazing. But even over Middle America, when you can see the ground, it's interesting how it's all cut up and just looks like some kind of pattern that was art piece that was meant to be that way. But the really shitty part about having an aisle seat versus the window, besides not being able to see out, is you're just constantly getting bumped by people. I've got kind of wider shoulders, and it was just 5.5 hours of just somebody bumping you. It was really annoying.
I remember the first time I saw the Rockies from Denver. Just I know where Boulder is and Breckenridge, but I just, the line, the actual divide between the flatness of Denver and the Rocky Mountains, you can guess it from your car driving, up the mountain, but seeing it from the air, it didn't change everything. But I remember seeing that first time vividly. And now every time I fly in and out of Denver, I'm just like amazed. And I like to kind of see where I'm at too. Like flying out of LA, or sometimes you loop around San Francisco. I'm just trying to be like, oh, where is that bay? Like, oh, there's Bolinas. Oh, there's Muir Woods. And then you just like, I can sit up there for hours and look down.
So something else I pick up on from your blog is some of the things that you post. You post this very specific instruction that's subtle, but I think very interesting. It'll say something to the effect of, shut everything else down, turn off the ringer on your phone, close all your browser windows, and watch this. Focus. Mm-hmm. Why do you relay that specific instruction to focus? What brings that up?
Because I'm so it's what I probably wish someone would tell me. Because I have 3 browser windows going at any given point. Like I have you guys on Skype to the left, and I have iMessage to the right. There's a couple of emails that are popping in, and then I'll watch like these horrible like police shootings for the past 2 days on like a browser thing. But it's like I should give them my undivided attention, and I'm not good at that. I'm just like doing 35 things at a time. And sometimes I'll see something important and be like, what am I doing? Why am I texting like my mother at the same time as I'm seeing this? Like, I need to shut everything off and see this. And especially if it's like a beautiful art piece, like something amazing, where I feel like, kind of like with web videos and snowboarding too, like when I watch like Nigel's new part, or if I watch the Street League finals, like on a little corner of my screen, like I'm not giving it my undivided attention, and therefore the experience won't even be close to the same. I guess that's what I'm getting at.
I try to leave my phone when I do things like that. Like, I mean, it's harder in freaking, like on a computer, because it's like everything's so right there. But I try to, if it's like a movie, even if it's a movie at my house, like if it's a movie out somewhere, I turn my phone off. Like that's not a question. But even if it's at my house, I'd put my phone away, or like, and I constantly leave my phone to go do things. So like I might go skate and do yoga today, and I won't have my phone for 3 or 4 hours.
I wish I could do that. I mean, I don't mean I wish I would do that. I could obviously do it, but I don't treat myself to leave my phone.
Yeah, I mean, it's, with some people it's hard because they need to be able to communicate for work all the time. And
but it's an addiction. It's an addiction to me to carry my phone with me. I don't need it. I just need to, I think a lot of other people probably would do better with less phone time, but I can just speak for myself.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel stranded when my phone dies somewhere, and I'm like, like I don't know where I am, and I'm like, how do I figure my way out of here? And I'm like, well, I guess I could go talk to someone, a person, and say, hey, where's this road? Or how do I get to this place? What direction?
I'm addicted to power on my phone. Like I carry like a battery pack around, and that ended yesterday. I was leaving Brooklyn with like 8%. I'm like, how am I going to do this? Like, how am I going to like deal with this? And it's like the biggest first world problem in the world. But I love my device, and I love the internet, and there's always something I can, look up or for entertainment purposes watch. But it's an addiction like anything else, I think.
There's so many cool things that it's hard to like put it down sometimes. I'm like, you always want to have access to all these awesome things.
I have a really hard time understanding people who are like, what do you do on the internet? Like, I just like go check my email and read the news, and like then there's nothing more. And I'm like, I can't talk to you.
I feel like there's never enough time to look at everything on the internet.
You can go so deep.
I have so many. I have like at any given time like 20 to 100 tabs open in the web browser.
Yeah.
Because I'll just like, I don't have time to read this now. I'll just keep doing it.
My desktop kind of doesn't look as bad as yours, but I have stacks and stacks of photos and videos, and gives people like anxiety when they look at it.
Oh, mine too. People are just like, and I clean mine like every week, but I make so many screen grabs.
Oh.
Like it's annoying. Like I make so many screen grabs for bookings or for something I need to check up on, or whatever, a cool picture that I can't download from the browser. I don't know. It's another addiction, I guess.
Well, I want to get into some, like, we asked social media about if they had any questions for you, and I want to get into those before we wrap things up. A couple of these we kind of touched on, but maybe we can go a little more into detail. The first one's from Matthew Yarborough. I know him as DJ Mizzle, and he wanted to ask, did the writers, this is talking about your snowboard videos, did the writers have songs in mind, or did their writing style influence the songs that you chose?
I've always wanted to have the writer feel a part of the project and never stepped over anyone's toes. So yeah, I've always, to whatever extent and budget and music rights, tried for the writer to match something that they're listening to. But sometimes, that song can end up being a part for someone else. And some people don't even have a preference, and some people do. And with music rights, in the past 5 years, it's been almost ridiculous. Or some of the last projects, you can't get anything, basically. But I definitely want to involve the writer as much as possible. I remember I used an LCD Sound System song for Mountain Lab 1.5 for Devon Walsh, and I really, really, really loved the song. And I loved the song, like top 10 songs I've ever used in a project. And Devon's like, yeah, I didn't like the song really. That bummed me out.
It's heartbreaking, right? You like so into it, and people were like, I remember picking a couple songs for videos, and they were like, "Are you sending me joke songs on purpose?" And I'm like, "No, I love these songs. Are you kidding me?" Mm-hmm. I'd wondered about that because the first time I heard "The Faint" was on Afterbang, was Louis Fontaine.
I was just gonna say, The Faint. That came from Louis, I think Louis or Bobby Meeks. Okay. And he just played the song "Agenda Suicide" to me, and I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
Like, what is this? Like, this is incredible.
That made me a fan of them. That made me want to go see them live, and I saw them live from Afterbang.
And I think those movies, or snowboard movies in general as well, and skate movies, to me, like, I might go see Quicksand play here tomorrow or something, I think, because they were in the first standard movies or New Kids on the Talk or whatever they were. Yeah. Like, just early hardcore 90s music, because you watch those movies so many times and that becomes your music style. Like, I listened to Liebenhain, like some band that was in Plan B videos, and I didn't even like him, but it was like Sal Barbier's song or whatever. I'm like, I'll go watch that concert, or I'll buy that CD. I feel that translates into the movies I made too. And the same with, we had The Knife for a movie and my current wife, her ex-boyfriend was like a snow bum with her for a couple of seasons in the Alps. And he introduced her to a bunch of songs. And then when we met, she started playing all these songs to me. But they were all like the whole Robot Food. Like, she's like, "Oh, this Postal Service song is so good." And and then this Billy Idol song came on. And then a freaking "I Melt With You" song came. And I'm like, yeah, those are all songs from like my movies. And she's like, "What? No, he used to play these like on a playlist." Yeah, those are my movies. And she's like, "There's no way you influenced my playlists through snowboard videos." And she's like a pretty pretentious skier. She hates snowboarders, which makes it even harder for her to connect with. But I feel that's the great part about what I did and like what we still do. Like, that's, the music is such an integral part. And if that song, if you ask Louis Fountain now about The Faint, he would probably remember 2002, 2003 as a good year and a good soundtrack, like a soundtrack of the year or whatever.
And that parlayed into a game that we played at the shop in my retail days. Any of the other shop employees, if you hear a song outside of the store and you're with them, it was a game for somebody to say, what video part? What movie? Can you at least get the movie?
I still get that all the time with like, snowboard friends. Like you'll be in a barbecue and some song come on, like, and then Eddie will be like, Pierre, what movie? I'm like, I think it's like Destroyer with DCP. He's like, damn it. And I mean, for skate videos, I'm better at picking out soundtracks and songs. I can see like, oh yeah, Chico Brenna's like kickflip manual, frontside shove it out. Like I can see the trick at certain parts of the song.
I could call up my friend that I grew up with, Andy Shep, who we did what you mentioned. He bought the New Deal video, Useless Wooden Toys. I recorded it. Mm-hmm. I could call him up right now and play a clip from any point in that video, and he would tell me, oh, Chris Hall. And then he would tell me the trick.
Yeah.
We've watched them hundreds of times.
Chris Hall, shove it, the frontside 360, shove it out.
Exactly.
It's kind of a problem. And I have this other thing I can't, especially from watching skate videos, I can tell you what stance every rider I've ever seen has in half a second. Wow. I've never been wrong.
Wow.
Because it's just, and that's what, it's so weird, like when I would see a magazine, I'm like, oh, Travis Parker and a Cab 5. I'm like, no, that's a frontside 5. Like how can you not know that Travis Parker is goofy? Like it's mind-blowing to me. Or anyone else. Like, I mean, you could bring up like, freaking Jason Ford or Kyle Clancy, or it doesn't matter. Like, I can never be wrong. Or I can, but I've never been wrong.
That's exponential. Yeah, that's exponential skate and snow nerd. I'm impressed because that's definitely a black area in my mind. I just don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, no, and it's just one of those things where I get it, but like, I mean, I'll shake your hand and not know your name 30 seconds later.
That happens.
My brain was just important. My brain was like, yeah, you gotta remember that all emails and Ron Knigge was goofy footed. Like that's important to know. And I'm like, okay.
I have a couple more questions. I know we're kind of trying to wind things down, but so my uncle Rufus kind of had a question about software that you use. He said he's running a pirated version of CS6, and he wanted to know if you should pay extra for the cloud and what recommendations. What kind of stuff do you use?
I just started paying for the cloud like a year or so ago. I just made the switch from Final Cut Pro to Adobe Premiere, and it's been... I dreaded it for years. I was in Final Cut 7 until 2015.
I still use Final Cut 7.
And I still use QuickTime 7 from that time because it's so much better than anything else.
Yeah.
And it's a great software because you don't need to render stuff. You can mix GoPro with 5D footage, or even, I mean, on my laptop, I run like raw red footage and edit with. So I think, Final Cut is definitely done if you need to like mix formats. And the interface of Adobe is what it is. But to me, it's like, I don't know, like $120 a year for the software. And I feel that I get enough joy and work out of it where it's obviously not worth pirating. And they're smart too. Like you got to give it to them. They're making it very difficult to pirate, from now on. And at some point, I think they put it themselves in a good price point to where like $100 and $120 a year, most people can find that money if they love filmmaking.
Yeah.
And if you don't, just use an older Adobe 5 or whatever. But it's so cheap compared to when I started, like software. Even Final Cut Pro was $1,000, and that was still 40 grand less than a Media 100.
Ooh. And you're shooting on film, so the cost of everything.
That cost is that's an aesthetic that you just have a preference for.
Sure.
But like the full editing thing, when Final Cut came out, their first ad that I saw was like the editing studio at a 99% discount, yours for $999. And I mean, people at Media 100s and Avids were just like freaking out because their systems cost 50 or 100 grand. like those Transworld videos and the DC video that Greg Hunt and Ty Evan used. Like, I mean, yeah, it was 6-figure systems.
Wow.
And then in 1 year, Final Cut and Apple came out with a $3,000 laptop and $1,000 software, and you had the same thing.
That's crazy. How do you feel about people like the resurgence of standard def footage in skateboarding and snowboarding, like VX and GL2s?
I'm fine with it. It's just a look like anything else.
Yeah.
I hate when people deinterlace their footage wrong, so it becomes these horizontal lines. Like every other line goes one way or another. It's just a setting. It's really super annoying. But yeah, I don't mind standard def or anything. But I wouldn't swear by it. It's just like I know the Baker Boys and Beagle and those type. A lot of people swear by it, and I think it's just another aesthetic. It's just like anything else.
Sure.
My favorite aesthetic is to start filming with my iPhone in the vertical position and then turn it like midway through, turn it so there's no format that's possibly humanly. I can't even watch it back on the phone in the correct way, and that's my go-to.
I actually did a comment on John Humphreys, who's a really talented photographer from Portland and filmmaker. He did a vertical video on his Instagram. Well, he showed it on Instagram of a vertical video on Times Square that he shot for Nike, but it was shot and projected on a vertical screen. So the whole thing from start to finish was vertical. People running looks great in vertical, right? Like it's just you get the whole body and everything. And I'm obviously super against vertical videos on YouTube where you just get 90% black on each side. But it makes sense in Snapchat or on video messages, or if you're shooting something where you know the distribution is vertical. Like it is what it is. But if you're putting vertical videos into, a widescreen timeline or a project, it really, really, really bums me out.
But you didn't give him a death threat.
No, I gave him a compliment on Instagram. And I'm like, I really like this. Like I've always wanted to do or see someone do like a vertical project from thought process to finish, like whatever.
Gotcha.
Well, he knew how it was going to be, displayed, and that was super important. I think people most of the time are just like, oh, I have my phone and let me film, and then they think afterwards like, oh, I should upload it here, and then it doesn't work as well.
Yeah, and I can see how you could do that once, but like if you're aiming to put this on YouTube, or just turn your phone. It's like not that hard.
Yeah. One time I was on a trip and I was like pretty young. My mom was filming and she turned the video camera to the side and filmed a lot like that. And then I think she filmed upside down at some point. I don't know why, but she kept like doing stuff and it like completely ruined the format. And I had to like flip the clips and stretch them out in weird ways. And
I mean, your mom's not the first one. I've seen that happen many times. But on the other hand, like I just wanted to get in like on a little subject here because I just love this movie called Boys of Summer, a skate video.
Oh yeah,
and I think it's like one of the best, probably the best movie that came out all last year. And I remember when Transworld like did their poll, like, hey, what's the video of the year? And they nominated like so many videos, like 15, and Boys of Summer wasn't even on there. I'm like, there's nothing else I watched more than once except Boys of Summer, which I've watched like 8 times. And it just proves that iPhone VX mixed with red, as long as it's Gina pushing on a red or Anthony Van Engelen with a 6 slide on an iPhone, it doesn't matter.
Content is king.
Yeah.
So kids, go watch that movie if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, I think they put it out for free. I think they have a free download.
Yeah, it's on Vimeo for free.
Oh, it's on Vimeo then. Yeah, that was such a sick video.
Did we have any more listener questions?
We got one more. So Justin Jetsky wanted to know why he won't accept his friend request on Facebook.
An amazing filmmaker, by the way.
Jess?
What's up?
Jess who? Jess who?
Justin.
His name's Justin Majetsky.
Yeah, I don't know, Justin. So probably that's why.
He's
That's a good answer.
He's traveling in a van right now. Really amazing photographer, personal friend of mine, and I didn't know he made that comment either. That's
Huh?
pretty funny. He probably just looks up to
No,
you,
I mean, yeah, I just don't. I mean, I just keep my friend requests on Facebook pretty, because I just rant a lot about politics and stuff, and like even like, my wife's family or friends I've met once or twice at a barbecue or 4th of July party. Like, I don't want, I don't have a filter really for Facebook, so like a lot of shit gets put on there, and I'm assuming most of my friends have already hidden me on there, so I just don't want them to see my shit. Yes, or deal with my shit.
Cool.
I mean, you already put out a bunch of stuff on other social media.
Yeah,
There's
but
already
that
a
still
lot of access.
that still has a filter. It's just, I guess, just my politics and rants on Facebook that isn't for public viewing.
Yeah. Well, I was just saying, like, if someone's not your friend on Facebook, they can still have a lot of access.
And being a friend on Facebook in 2008 was something different than it is now.
Absolutely.
Like, it doesn't. Like, I mean, I get like, oh, suggested friends on Facebook. I'm like, yeah, I know that guy, but I'm like, it's such a weird thing to send a friend request in 2016. I feel like it just doesn't. I mean, I have your phone number. I'll call you if I want to talk to you.
Yeah, you don't. It doesn't prove that you're friends with someone or you don't dislike or like someone.
No, and I've been called out for having whatever 1,000 friends or whatever it is on Facebook, and they're like, nobody has 1,000 friends. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I do, but it's just not. To me, it was never like, how do you see this as a bragging right? Or like, I just don't. Social media is so weird because I'll post shit that's weird. My wife will be like, don't do that. Like, take that back. And then other friends will hit me up like, yeah, you probably should have had a filter on. And then I see like my parents and others like sharing weird shit. I'm like, there are no rules. And yeah, it's a strange concept to begin with. And I struggle going back and forth about discussing. And like you said, you kind of keep quiet about politics and stuff because I just don't care. But it's out there, and I don't know. I guess I have a little bit of a problem with it.
No, you're right. There's no rules, so you shouldn't let somebody else dictate what you share or not. And it's funny, AJ and I have been friends forever, and we just connected on Instagram for one of our accounts, I think yesterday. But we've been friends in real life for sure.
Wait, what account?
I think the podcast account, the Not Snowboarding Podcast Instagram. I was like, AJ is we're not even following each other. So we have one last question that we ask most of the guests, and it's kind of deep. If you're 39 years old now, right?
Yep.
If your 39-year-old self could go back and meet your 18-year-old self, what advice would you give? What would that conversation be like?
I feel like I was 18 just a few years ago, so I would just be like, keep filming. Like, I mean, my camera was my ticket to see the world and meet amazing people. And I wouldn't change a thing about it.
Cool. Do you have any advice for a kid that's listening to this podcast that is filming now and wants to make a career out of it?
I used to get a few letters and emails about this when I was more active on it, like people who have college funds and they don't want to disappoint their parents and whatnot, but they still just want to be a ski bum and film. And I think it's important to hold on to something that you love doing because you excel at it, be it music or filming or gymnastics or whatever it might be. So, I mean, if you're not under a whole lot of pressure, I mean, move to, like, go where the skiing is or snowboarding is. Like, go to Mount Hood, like, film your buddies. Like, I mean, your buddy could be the next Scott Stevens and you could be the next Joe Carlina. Like, that's how Scott Stevens became who he was and Joe Carlina became who he is. It's just like, without putting in the time and networking and connecting and guessing and hoping like, yeah, nothing's going to be served on a table for you. I don't think anyone in the snowboard industry got there without putting in the time. But the beauty is that the time we put in is time that we wouldn't want to do anything else with anyway.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
Where do you want people to find you on the interwebs? Obviously, not Facebook.
Not Facebook.
Your blog would be my recommendation.
I never go on my Tumblr things. It's funny that you mentioned it because I used to set that up when Instagram was new. I'm like, how do I keep all these photos that I upload? Like, I want them to be like, I'm a hoarder. So like, I just want to keep them somewhere. And that's how I started the Tumblr. And I rarely checked it. But I have a few friends who don't use Instagram for whatever reason, who actually follow me or see pictures on Tumblr. But I think Instagram is the best way to see what I'm up to visually and maybe politically, unfortunately to some.
Cool. Pierre. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's it. No, and I was just going to say, I'm still so hyped that I don't get sponsored things on my Instagram. I don't know if I'm the only one who don't get that.
I don't on my personal account either. I've never seen one, but my two other accounts I do. My personal account's really old. I was an early adopter for whatever reason.
Yeah, and
I think it's the age of the account.
Maybe, because I got sponsored things like 6 months ago, and it was like, okay, I'm over Instagram. This interface is stupid. And then after a week, nothing. Like, I haven't had a sponsored thing since like October.
Interesting.
I get those still sometimes, but it's pretty rare.
Oh, the podcast account, which is my newest Instagram, every 4 or 5 photos, it's a sponsored one. Yeah.
They're going to start putting ads in Snapchat, like on your personal story.
I've seen them. I saw a Snapchat ad last week.
Snapchat is
someone's personal
that
story.
I never adopted Snapchat. I never have enough batteries in my phone, and it would be way, way too addictive for me because Snapchat is exactly what I do. Like, I'll post random videos. Instagram now seems too contrived and polished, actually. Like, I actually think 2 or 3 times before I post something, whereas 2 years ago I didn't. I just posted. And so a lot of photographers and media people go through Snapchat because they feel like they can upload, unfiltered shit, but I just don't know how they have the battery for it.
It's what Facebook was in 2008 in some ways. It's that audience where your parents and your aunts and uncles are not there, and you see crazy shit. After one of the funniest things is to wake up in the morning and look at the Snapchat feed on a weekend and just see what all your friends have been doing while they were partying.
Yeah, and that's so like what I like to do. And it's just, some people say that I've been accused for having like braggy photos from cool places and yada, yada, yada. But when people go to cool places, be it Brian Fox or my aunt or whoever, like, I'm genuinely happy that they're there and doing it. And I wish people felt the same way towards me. And then like to have that look into my friend's weekend or travels or whatever, that would be like my favorite thing in the world, but that means I would get addicted to another social media thing, and I'm really hoping that doesn't happen. I look too much down in my phone anyway. My wife kind of is not a fan. And she's not like a high maintenance type of woman by any means, but I do just carry my phone and look down on my phone too often anyway.
It's an addiction that a lot of us struggle with, man.
Yeah.
I thank you for this. This was fucking awesome. It was fun to
this was so rad.
Get off the beaten path and to talk about the taboo subjects.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. Hopefully some people made it through the political part of the podcast.
We'll check the comments.
So how did that discussion sit with you? Let us know via the comments on Facebook or Instagram. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for rating and reviewing the podcast in iTunes. If you haven't done it yet, it takes 2 minutes. Please stop right now really quick and give us a rating on iTunes. It helps a lot more people find the show. Also, again, for international listeners looking to make their boots more comfortable this winter, use discount code PRAYFORSNOW at shredsoles.com. Until next week, peace and politics.
People on planes are the worst. People on planes, they complain. They get off the plane, they come to your house, and they tell you about their whole flight experience. And they make it sound like it was fucking a cattle car in Poland in the 40s. They just make it... That was the worst day of my life. I had to sit on the runway for 40 minutes. That's a story in this country. That's a fucking hardship. That you had to sit on the runway. People will listen to that story. They'll stop doing the dishes and turn around and go, oh my God, really? For 40 minutes? That's awful. You should sue them.